Namaste and welcome to your week 2 on the Supple Spine for Spring series. This week we move up from the hamstrings and the inseam of the leg to the pelvic floor, the basin of the body. And we look at the pelvic, a movement in the pelvis to help lubricate the sacrum, the lower back. And the sacrum is the most sacred space in pregnancy because from the sacrum, which is right at the top of your butt crease, all the dendrites, the nerves, feed the uterus, and this is really important for opening and for growing and for obviously for the developing fetus and your babies too. So working into sacral circles, really useful to help lubricate and innervate that space. The other muscle pairing that we're going to be looking at is the iliopsoas. Now the psoas is the most vital muscle in the body because it's the only muscle that attaches your spine to your legs. It comes really from the back T10 vertebrae, so right in the sort of lower part of the thoracic spine, and it innervates, it crosses over at the solar plexus. So when we breathe diaphragmatically, we can help to release this muscle. And this muscle comes down like this, like a V shape, or vertically, like an arch really, and it feeds into the inside of the thigh bone, the femur bone here. And sometimes you can feel if it's tight by the inner groin starting to hurt or become a little bit painful. And because of its close proximity as well to the round ligaments, so when you get to week 19 and 20, you can start to feel tightening across this point here, the round ligaments feeding the psoas. So what can happen is this can tighten the psoas muscle, and when the psoas muscles tighten, they start to narrow that bridge, and you can start to feel quite a lot of pain in your lower back, for example, as well. So we're going to help to release, relax and let go of this tightness or tension in the muscle. Any stress that we carry as well, we wear in this muscle, so it's like the blueprint for emotion. So opening the hips is a really good way of sweeping out the rug of the pelvis to release this tension and this emotion which can manifest there. So let's just get started. So for practice today, you will need one of these, you'll need a ball. I do advocate having a blanket because prolactin depletes estrogen as you get later stages of pregnancy, so the knee joint can get a little bit tight. Have some space at a wall as well if possible. So we're going to start by basically doing a little breathing practice. So come into the middle of your ball. Have the feet so they are about hip width to shoulder width apart. If you have pelvic girdle pain, just make sure the toes are tracking in the same direction. And let's just start to work into the feet because balance can be a little bit skewed when you're on ball. So just start to work into the feet, spacing out the toes. See if you can bring more space as the little toe settles, each toe in turn, coming to the floor and then pressing in to the big toe mound, the bubbling spring point, just to release that more energy into the bloodstream. Good. So just start by working into some toe scrunches, and this obviously has some really good impact into the pelvic floor, and then you can just start to scrunch the toes, create a foot fist, and then space, and then repeat, scrunch and space, and then settle the toes down so you feel, you can have a little wiggle side to side just to feel the transfer of weight into the feet. And just notice if there's more weight bearing on one foot. And then see if you can balance the weight between both feet. And with that weight nice and balanced, think about the sit bones. And can you have a little wiggle in the pelvis just to feel the sit bones and the equidistance between them and that central point of the pelvic floor. And then lift up from the pelvic floor. You might want to do a little bit of forward-backward movement just to find the central point, because sometimes if our pelvis is slightly tilted, we can feel more weight into the pubis bone if you have a sway back, for example, and into the, say if you've got posterior pelvic tilt, you start to collapse the chest. So find that mid-support. Good. And then from here, coming into a little bit of Ida Mudra. So we're going to take the index finger and the thumb. So we're going to create this little raindrop that comes down. So with the left arm raised, just at the xiphoid process, which is just at the bottom of the rib cage, and then the other fingers coming up. So just about 2 fingers below the navel. So this is your CV6 point, your stomach acupressure point. So imagine you've got this golden thread between these points. And as you breathe, you're taking the breath in and down this golden thread. At the end of the inhale, seal the pelvic floor, and then just imagine that you're coming up this zipper with the exhale, and just sighing out the breath for open mouth. And just repeating that, excuse me, 2 more times. Inhaling into this space down the front spine. Seal the pelvic floor, and then coming up the back spine. And noticing what's happening there. And just one more with side exhale. Almost like you're measuring your diaphragm. Seal the pelvic floor and release and let go. Good. And then from here, just allowing the breath to settle, having that ha sound at the back of the throat, so you feel like these imaginary gills and you're breathing out through these holes, small holes at the side of the neck. So breathing in through the nose to the pelvic floor, or into the bottom hand. Feel the space, and as you exhale, feel that gentle contraction. Good. And just 2 more of those. Inhale to length. And exhale to lengthen the lower back. So you're lengthening, it's a cyclical breath. Well done. And just bring the hands down and just notice how you feel, any emotions bubbling up. Come a little bit further forwards on your ball now. So you're using your pelvic floor to help with balance. Have a little sway from side to side. Walk the feet out if you wish. If you have pelvic kernel pain, keep the toes tracking in the same direction. Have a little sway from side to side. Right, we're going to start to work into some pelvic tilts and arm movements just to work into the energy body a little bit more, the pranamaya kosha. So we're going to start with the hands. We can touch the hands actually. We'll start with the hands at the heart space. And on the in-breath, it's just a case of lifting up. So we're reaching for something lighter and brighter. And then with the exhale, we create a little canopy with the hands. And imagine you can pull them apart. So you're opening the heart and then pressing down. And as you press down, posterior pelvic tilt. So you're drawing the tailbone through between the legs. And then press the upper back out as you draw the forearms forwards. Good. And then repeat. So pelvic tilt. So as we come up, the sit bones come back. Open the arms. You can take it wider if you have any shoulder tension. Interlace the hands, create the canopy. This time inverse the hands so they're coming up to the ceiling. And then with the next exhale, just tilting the pelvis under you as you bring the hands down and push away. So this is known as the tidal breath. So we feel that we're working up to a peak, we pause in the peak and we breathe out with the sound of the sea this time. So when you're ready, inhaling, lifting up to something lighter, build to your peak, feel strong from toes to fingers. Exhale, clearing away the sediment, washing it out of the body. Good. 1 more of those. Inhaling, lifting up, sit bones back. Ribs starting to come in slightly just to protect the lower back. Exhale, pushing away. Really nice stretch for the back of the lungs and heart. Good. And coming back to sitting. Taking a little wave. So when we do undulations into the shoulders, into the hands, it's immensely stress releasing. We're going to take it into a little twist as well, which is again releases tension in the body and the spine. Inhale, have the hands like a little wave between the fingers. As you exhale, looking towards the right elbow, keeping the feet nice and stable, start to paddle the hands or wave the hands all the way to the side. So you feel a stretch coming in from this arm all the way down that back. Good. Keep it lifted. Inhale here. Exhale, coming back to center. Good. This time add sound. So we inhale. We exhale. Feeling the stretch. Inhale. Exhale. Get a little bit deeper now, so you've got real paddling going on with the arms into the shoulders, into the neck. You can start to lift the elbows, let the elbows take the movement. Inhale. Exhale, deeper shush. As you twist, inhale here. Exhale. Twisting, inhale here. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And then bring the hands down and just notice how it feels across the shoulders and the neck. You might feel this energy, this Kundalini energy rising up from the sacrum. Take the feet a little bit wider now. If you've got pelvic girdle pain, keep them shoulder width and toes tracking. Otherwise, take them a little bit wider. And we're going to start to unlock the pelvis. So imagine this hula hoop around the waist. And from the hula hoop down, you are working the pelvis. So the pelvis is leading the movement. So it's almost like you've got a little barrow in your pelvic floor and you're drawing circles on the floor. So start small. And then start to get bigger, ever increasing circles. Hands towards the inner groin, just to keep the shoulders over the hips. And just feeling, and you can start to take it into straight legs, tucking the pelvis through, really feeling the innervation into the pelvic floor. So really good to stimulate and lift the root of the body up. So really good for the body and the mind. And then you can start to add the shoulders. So inhaling, coming back, exhaling, sweeping forwards, giving yourself a hug. Inhale, take it slow. Exhale, taking the other arm on top. Inhale. So feeling the pelvis coming back, opening the heart. Exhale, tucking it all back. So it's a pelvic tilt with an opening. So use the breath to direct the movement. And then just come and stay with the arms like this and still come back to the middle part of the pelvic square. And then from here, just start to lift up the elbows and the armpits, just to work into the quadratus lumborum, which is a muscle that attaches the ribs to the pelvis. And then just slowly lowering. Good, and one more of those. Inhale, lifting. And this time opening up to the side. Good. Bring the hands to touch the ball or at the inner groins and just start to float the hips the other side. So starting to work into any knots of tension, just noticing how one sitting bone maybe is bearing more weight than the other. See if you can balance it up. Good. This is a really good enabler to discover really where we carry our tension, which leg we're more dominant in. Good. And just start to feel that pelvis move, and then you can start to take the action up into the arms. Slow it down, there's no rush. Good, and this time finish with the other arm over the top and just bow into it. You can bring the feet in a little bit closer now. And then on the inhale, lifting up. Exhale, drawing down. Keeping the neck and the shoulders in one plane with the hips. And then inhale, lifting up and opening out wide. Good. And then from here, come to stand. So So just literally come and bring both hips forward, slight pelvic tuck as you lift up. We're not going to use the ball just yet, so you might want to just take it to one side, use something if it's going to, use something like a blanket underneath, just so it's not going anywhere. And come to the back of your space. And we're going to make sure you've got some space in front of you. So I'm going to come to the back of my mat. The feet are hip width apart. So the first thing to do is just have one hand in front and one hand behind, and just find the sacrum, so the top of the butt cheek, and then just your pubic bone, which is really quite low down. You just might need to palpate it so you feel it. And then just have a hand. So you should see on the camera here that my pelvis is tilted forwards, and that's normal. So if these points are in line, that's what we call a posterior pelvic tilt. If the pelvis is slightly lower at the front, that's a good sign. So it's a really good sign. If it's slightly too low, it's pointing directly underneath you, then you have what we call a bit of a lordotic curve. So just think about keeping it nice and neutral. The way to do that really is to soften the knees. Okay. Have a little bounce here, just find your feet. And then we're just going to start to take the pelvis through like we did last time. So you feel more weight in the toes. So we come to almost aligned fingers. And then as you exhale, tucking it back, taking the sitting bones back, pressing into the outer edges of the feet. And then just repeat. So inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. Take it a little bit lower, so we're taking it into a pelvic scoop. Good. And then we're going to take it into the sides now. So start to circle the pelvis. So you're taking it into the left foot, all the way up to the left little toe, big toe, coming to the right big toe, little toe, right heel, inner heel, and just starting to float. So you feel the innervation in the feet now. So try and keep the feet like they're glued, so you're not going to fall like this. Keep the feet glued onto the floor. So imagine you are using your pelvis to put glue on those feet. So glue the feet, stick them into the earth, let them grow roots. Good. Well done. Really good position. You can even take the hands behind the back if you've got particularly tight shoulders, and if you've got a lower back issue, this is actually really nice to bring warmth and breath awareness into this point. Okay, from here, taking into a side stretch. Okay, so just coming in and doing a little bit of what we call swaying palm, if I show you from this angle. So feet, again, knees are soft. We've reached the arms out wide to the side and take them quite wide. And on the exhale, just tilt as you drop the elbow in. And you might even want to drop so the elbow is the highest point. And then inhale, reaching up on that side, coming back to centre, and then repeat the other side. So coming in, finding the stretch. You can even start to tilt the hips ever so slightly, just to work into this big muscle that joins the pelvis to the ribs. Good, and then reaching up with that other arm, coming back to centre. Good stuff. And then from here, from this position, we're just going to do what we call skier pose. So imagine you are skiing down a mountain. So your arms are open and lifted. So this is when we're shushing down the mountain. Very tall. Think about the feet being glued to the floor. Soften the knees now. Imagine you're turning a corner. So you're just coming into skier pose and then reaching up. Inhale. Exhale. Sighing the breath out. Inhale, exhale, inhale. So you're taking the pelvis way back to come forwards. Scooping the pelvis back, scooping it forward. So taking that pelvic scoop into a deeper action. Lovely. Okay, from here, we're going to hold it here, and then you're going to take the arms back as far as you can, and they'll start to look forwards. And start to draw up a little bit, so you're just lifting baby away from the thighs as you come forward. So finding that nice chair pose position. Good, and you might even be able to sink down a little bit lower. And then scooping up to the ceiling and arms down to the sides again. Good. Just one more of those, so 5 dynamic, 3 in hold. So we inhale, reach up, exhale, 5. 3, 2, hold. Bringing it forwards, pressing the sit bones back so you feel the weight transfer. Press into the outer edges of the feet as you look forwards. Good, and then scooping and lifting up. Bring the hands to the sides and just notice how you feel now. So that skier pose, dynamically, really good to release stress. Chair pose, really good to help with the lower back and reset the pelvis. Good. Okay, so coming into a little funny walk. So we're going to take stork walk today, and this is a really good way to open up the pelvis gently. So if you do have pelvic girdle pain, it shouldn't be too problematic for you. It is going to come into an asymmetric stretch, so any joint pain in the back, just go with caution, take a little step forwards rather than a big step forwards when you come into that stretch. So start with the hands simply braceletting and corseting the waistline. Take weight into the right foot so you feel quite light on the left, and just start to imagine you've got glue tack or chewing gum on that big toe and that you can't move, unstick that big toe from the floor. So just working into the toe, the ankle, the knee, good, and then start to bring a little softness into the right knee and take it into a deeper hip circle. So can you find the balance? Obviously if you do have pelvic girdle pain, don't bring too much weight into one side. Keep it nice and balanced, so keep the toe on the floor. So opening it up nice and wide, and then finding the hold. So have a softness in the knee. You might want to take the right arm up to the sky, left hand back, just to get that cross diagonal stretch. Step forwards and wide with the left foot. Turn the right toe out, so you've got what we call duck feet. So the feet are slightly webbed out to the sides. And then from here, try and keep the hips, so it's quite nice to bring the hands to bracelet the waist again. And then taking the hands behind the back, just start to fold, you're going to start to lunge in to the front legs, just to open up the iliopsoas on this side. So lunge is great. So you're tilting the pelvis through to get the stretch in the inner groin. And then taking it into the hamstring stretch, so bending the back knee now and start to tilt down as you bring the hand down towards and lift the kneecaps. You might even want to lift up the toes, and can you press in to that shin to open up the heart. So it's just a gentle twist, and then from there just coming back, pressing the left toe so it's tracking forwards and then stepping forwards with the other foot. And just repeat with the other side. So now again, soften the knees, have a little bounce. You can use the hands just to find your feet. Take the hands to corset the waist or hips, quite nice on the hips. Tic-tac-toe, so just coming into the other foot, imagining that chewing gum, sticking your big toe to the floor. Again, try and keep the zipper, so imaginary zipper from pubis to navel, so just lifted slightly, just so you're not overcompensating in the lower back. Good. And then just opening up that hip to get more lubrication in that right hip joint. And if you hear any clicking, you might want to consider just bringing the foot back on the floor. Good. Taking it up nice and wide. Can you find that little balance? Soften that left knee. Take the other hand up to the sky, so heaven to earth stretch. And then take a step forwards. It can be shorter, remember, if you have any pelvic girdle pain. Turn the back toes in. You can keep the toes lifted on the front foot if you wish, and then pressing into that lunge. So posterior pelvic tilt, tail between the legs to open the inner groin, and then take the tail back. Try and keep the hip points nice and level as you bend down. Taking the right hand down, you can lift up the toes, find a little twist. You can even lift up the arm. Good. So a little bit of stork walking. Bring the hand behind the back, scoop the pelvis under, and come to stand. And just notice how you feel now. You might find that the legs feel a little bit stronger, the upper body a little bit lighter. That's the main premise for birthing lightly. Okay, taking your ball, so we are going to use the ball now, and we're going to start to do a little bit of movement using ball against the wall. Okay, so finding some space at the wall. We're going to start, so if you imagine this counter is my wall, we're going to start with just a hand at the wall, And you're going to start to open the hips. So we're going to do a very similar thing to what we've just done with the hips. So having the feet hip width apart, having just coming into a bent knee position, and then just starting to draw the foot onto the ball. So it might be that the ball is a little bit further away. If you have pelvic girdle pain, do not do this movement. Just start to use, again, just keeping that toe on the floor, and you can start to open the knee out a little bit, and I'll show you a modification. You could even try, if you have pelvic girdle pain, just to lift. It might not be very beneficial to lift the leg, but you might want to just lift and just bring some weight behind this knee, and then you can start to traction back a little bit just to find some space. Again, try and keep the pelvis slightly tilted forwards, and then you can draw the knee in. So that might be, it's a good stretch for the psoas here. Okay, and it just keeps the hips nice and level, so you can have the hands to a wall, and just doing this movement can be useful for any pelvic girdle pain. Coming into a lateral side stretch, so we're going to take the foot, if you're okay and able to do this, onto the ball, and just use the heel and the toe to just draw a little circle and the ball into the ground. So just little circles, just to open up that hip joint a little bit more. And then from here, it's quite nice just to bring the heel, so you come into a little tree pose. So if I show you from this position here, so you're coming into a little tree pose, your hands on the wall. And it's quite nice to have the hands on the wall as a balance. You can, if you wish, bring the ball just so it's just protecting the knee. If you are quite adept in yoga, if you've done yoga before, you can even bring the foot up a little bit higher. But try not to bring, so if you've got quite a small ball, you might find that the foot comes onto that cruciate ligament in the knee, and we don't want to twist the knee at all, because the knee is very important. So have a softness in the ankle leg, and then lift, if you need to, the heel up the thigh a little bit further. So you've got the knee just supported on the ball. So that's a really good tree pose. Obviously, if you have pelvic girdle pain, you can still do it, but keep the foot on the floor, and it's just a case of opening and pressing into that ball. So it's a little position like that. So it's just a very gentle opening. And this is a really good stretch to get a stretch into the inner thigh and the inner groin. Sometimes this can get quite tight, so really good for the psoas muscle. Okay. So any load bearing is really good for the core muscles and the pelvic floor. So coming up, using support obviously in pregnancy with the ball. Okay, another action you can try in the tree pose is to lift up same side arm as leg. So you've got the hand, so if I do it this way, so you've got the hand on the wall, try not to lean in, hands on the wall, then you can start to lift this hand up and try and take a little side bend. Good. You can even sort of lift up the arm up the wall, little side stretch, and then bringing that hand out. And then you can come to the other side. So to come to the other side, just simply come and just bring your ball, and you can lean into the ball. It's quite nice to open up the backs of the legs and the thighs, just to lean in here, and you can carry the weight of baby. So you're just leaning into the ball, so the thighs are coming in to get a nice stretch. You can take the hands down if it's a bit too much of a stretch into the calf muscles. Good, and then coming to the other side. So again, taking the feet close together. Either start, obviously if you've got pelvic girdle pain, it might be better to have the ball behind you slightly, and just lifting just the foot, the toe, and coming into a psoas stretch this way. So the hip points are in one line. Otherwise, coming into the foot on the ball. So having the ball to the side, having the foot up, and just lubricating that right hip joint. Just nice open awareness into that right hip. Good. And then from here you can start to draw the foot to the... And then from here you can even take that right hand slightly higher off the wall, bring the left hand to the side, and you can take a side stretch to open up into the muscle that attaches the rib cage to the pelvis. And then you can take it the other way. You can start to reach up and keeping pressure on the ball, the foot, coming into the inner thigh. Try and keep this leg so you're not painting it out to the side. Good, and then bringing that arm down. And then from here, just sliding the foot down the leg, bring the feet together. And just notice how you feel. It's quite nice to observe how you feel here right now. Good. And then from here, just gently coming down to the ground. So keeping the wall behind you, just take a step forward. So you've got a little bit of space. So you can measure it if you want by taking a forward bend. So coming to a wall, leaning into the wall and just taking the feet a little bit further back so you're on a bit of a diagonal. So if you imagine if you cut one leg off, it's that leg length width away from the wall. And then you can test it by just coming into a forward bend at the wall. So you're bringing the arms so they're parallel to the floor. You can even have the ball here if you want to, under the head. Having the knees nice and soft, like so. Having the sit bones back and just having a little sway from side to side. And then from here, just moving the ball to one side, come into a little squat, bring the hands down to the floor and just settle the knees down. And it's quite nice to bring a blanket to mark where the feet are, like that, and then you can come around. So we're going to bring our knees onto this point here, okay? And you'll probably notice that we are going to be using the wall now to lift our leg up. So you can measure the distance as well by just having the knee and just making sure, so you might need to move the blanket a little bit, that the knee and hip are in one track, so they're tracking, stacking and tracking. And then when you lift the foot up the wall, you're not coming too far forwards. Okay, so just bringing it in. So we're going to start with the foot against the wall, the hands webbing out slightly to the sides. And then, so this is a really good stretch into the sciatic nerve. So sometimes in pregnancy we can get pain in the butt cheek, which can descend down the inner or outer thigh. This is called sciatica. So from here, what I recommend is you just lift up the foot so it's parallel to the floor, pressing against the wall. Now, if you do have pelvic girdle pain, just go with caution with this. But there's no reason why you can't do it because the hips are still in the same line. You might want to take it slightly looser, so you bring it down to the floor a little bit closer, so you're not overextending, especially if you have any pain in the back of the pelvic girdle. Otherwise, lifting up onto the wall, have the hands a bit further forwards than the shoulders. And then on the in-breath, we're pointing the toe into the wall, exhale, pressing that heel in. So it's just an opening movement into the sciatic nerve. Really good to start to work into the glutes, so the glue around the bottom, helping to work into those muscles to release the cellulite as well. If you would like to take it a little bit further, you can take the left hand a little bit closer, but keep that the hand webbing out, and you can start to stretch from the heel of the left foot into the fingertips of the right. You can look forwards. So a bit of a tiger stretch, Vrikasana, and then just dropping that knee down. And then it's quite nice to tuck the toes under and have a little sway from side to side. So swaying from side to side. You can even start to draw the pelvis back a little bit, soften the shoulders back, lifting the heart. And then take it into a little cat stretch and press the hands into the floor, round the back, and just take the bottom halfway toward the heels. Good. And then repeat, inhaling, cow-cat. Cow pose. Imagine that cow with a tail lifting. Exhale, tuck the tail and come into extended child. Good. And then just coming back, having a little bit of a rock forwards and backwards. And just find fluidity in the spine. Good. And then from here, coming to the other side, stretching that left heel back into the wall. Lifting up, only if you feel okay. You might find that one foot is bigger than the other, one leg is longer. And then from here, pointing on the in-breath, looking forwards, on the out-breath, pressing in. Inhale, coming forwards. Exhale, pressing back. Good, one last one. Good, and then pressing back, And then start to draw that leg down. Well done. Good stuff. You can even, if you want to take it further, take it into a cross diagonal stretch. Really good for balancing the pelvis. Good. And then take that hand down, release that leg down. And then again, have a little sway. You might want to do some little circles here, just to release the pelvis. Really nice. Just circle and release. Good. Just taking your time. Coming the other way. Lubricating the pelvis. And it's quite nice as well to come back into that pose. So you've got the foot against the wall, so you can take it a little slightly different now. And then you can just walk that foot out wide to the side and just take it, like we did on the ball earlier, just into a little half squat circle. So again, this is really good. You can even walk the foot a little bit closer towards the hand if you've got more flexibility in that hip. You can even, if you want to, you can use the ball as well. So you can just bring your head onto the ball and just let the movement come from the pelvis. Here's a little movement here. So if you've got tight shoulders, this is actually really nice just to open up the shoulders. Or you can bring the elbows down and repeat. Really nice movement into the hips. And then you can bring the head to the ball if you're using a ball, and you can take that leg back and taking it into the other side. So do have a wall behind the foot, so stretching back into the wall and then bringing that foot out wide, using the hands on the ball if you need to, and just taking it into a little rotation to the side. If you've got pelvic girdle pain, I'd like it to be a little bit, you can bring it a little bit shorter. You can just have the feet there so that they're tracking in line with the pelvis a little bit more. Okay. So just working with very small circles if there is any tension there. Otherwise nice and open, you can get lower. Okay, just to open up that pelvis. And then just bringing the ball back and coming back to kneeling. With the ball, bringing it to the wall, and we're going to just come to a little bit of opening into the hips before we come to our relaxation. Doing a little bit of a breathing technique as well. So if you have a blanket or cushion, it's really nice to have a little roll in it. Do have a couple of aids. You can have toilet rolls if you're at home. It's quite nice to use toilet rolls, or if you've got loads of them, that is. Or you can use cushions. It's quite nice, I like cushions as well. So taking the blanket and just bringing it so it's just in front by about, so if you had a block, it's probably about a block width away from the blanket. Okay, and then it's just a case of bringing your bottom, so you're just kneeling, coming forwards. I quite like to just bring my bottom down and then pivot around like so. So your bottom is on the blanket, just make sure you've got your props available to you, and your cushions or blocks are either side. And then just find, it's quite nice to have a little massage into the ball, just to find that spot. Good. And then from there you can press back into the ball and just let the head go. If you've got any tension in the shoulders or neck, I advocate a little rolled blanket under the neck so that you can come back and you can feel quite supported. Bring the feet together. If you have pelvic girdle pain, take the feet a little bit wider and drop the knees in, just so you're protecting the lower back, any tension in the pelvic girdle at all. Otherwise, opening out the knees, you can take the feet and soften it a bit so you don't have to bring the heels directly in towards the pelvic floor. And then just have the hands, it's quite nice just to rest the hands. They naturally rest in what we call yoni mudra here in the womb space. So just starting to feel into this space. And do any minor adjustments that you need before you settle here. And again, using the sound of the sea, so the ocean breath, So we're breathing into this space, in the womb space. And as we exhale, just a slight lifting up. So you start to feel the fingers press a little bit more as you breathe out through the mouth. And imagine this golden thread this time coming out from between the lips. So you're breathing it out. So this thread like your guide rope. So you're breathing in through the nose, sealing the pelvic floor and breathing out. Try not to purse the lips, a very small gap between the upper and the lower lip to allow the exhale to extend. It's called the ocean breath. And I like to liken this breath to kind of the guide rope breath. So you imagine your body as a boat, and as you're breathing in, you're taking in more air into your sails, which are your lungs. And as you breathe out, you're zipping up and you're just letting go of any tension. And you're using this guide rope almost to lift you up the wave. And just repeating gently in through the nose. Soft blow out. And repeat. And this time imagine that the waves are getting bigger. So as you breathe in, imagine this wave just rocking your boat. So breathing into that wave to help lift you up. And then again, just drawing and so lifting up slightly and then blowing it out. And let all that, so try and extend your exhalation. So as you're blowing out, you're lifting yourself up this wave, this guide rope breath, drawing you up. And just keep going like that, in through the nose. And out through gently open lips. And just imagine now that the waves are getting bigger still. So as the wave knocks your boat, you breathe in to lift up. Halfway up the wave, just slowly release that tension. So you're opening up that rope to lift you up. Then you might want to take a short, sharp breath in and a long, smooth breath out on the wave as you ride the wave. Try and soften the face. And just two more like that. Big wave hits the boat. Breathe in to receive. Breathe out to release. Short, sharp breath in. Long, smooth breath out. One more short, sharp breath in. Long, smooth breath out. Then imagine that the waves have all gone. You can bring your hands open now. And that you have arrived at your desert island in the ocean. Imagine the sun soaking into the pores of your skin, warming you up from the inside. And as you exit your boat, you gently bring the feet into the sand, and imagine walking that soft sand between your toes, pouring you in as you walk. So it really helps to slow your walking down. And imagine you go to a spot between two palm trees. There's a little hammock with lots of rose petals covering this cradle. And as you look into the cradle, you sense movement. As you peer in, you notice it's your baby. And you pick your baby up for the first time. Imagine your sense of elation, of joy, of love. Feel grateful for all the things that have got you to this point. And then as you look across the ocean, you notice that the waves aren't, it's just a gentle ripple. And that you have managed to navigate this course to this point with your breath, the movements, that sense of I can do this, sense of inner power. And then just gently bring your hands onto your baby that's still here, tucked up neatly in its womb-like world, and just give it a little rub. And just know that one day soon you'll take this journey into unknown waters together, yet you will be guided by the breath. And then when you're ready, just start to tuck the chin down, hands to either side of the hips, and just lift up. You might need to just open up the cushions and bring the knees to touch and stretch the legs out, have a little wiggle. Bring the hands to touch at the heart, and I bow to the light within. Namaste.